Hi there everyone, this is Chris with Peace of Mind, and I'm here today to do another video on my series of little bits. And I'm going to, I have done this before on my channel, but I'm going to do it again just to key in on how to make a yo-yo. I believe the English people call these Suffolk puffs, and this is a very old, actually, they used them in quilting and sewing, and they made lots of the yo-yos and then strung them all together to make quilts. And my first experience with one was when I was in college, and I visited my friend's hometown, and on her bed she had a quilt made out of yo-yos that her grandmother had made her. And it was really warm. And it wasn't sewn to something. It was just all the connected yo-yos. I gotta check my view here. There we go. It's all the connected yo-yos, and then it made, like I said, it made a very warm quilt. So I want to show you how to do them today. You can use them in your slow stitch. You can use them in your journals. You can either sew them to something, sew them to a background, or you can glue them on a journal page. Whatever you decide to do with them. I'm sure there's many methods of making these. I'm going to show you my method. And I just here recently tried this with a piece of lace. I had a lace yardage that I cut into circles, and I tried one, and it turned out pretty well. This one's made with the 4-inch circle. So once again, these are called yo-yos, and I'm going to show you how I make them. The first thing I do is I get something that's a circular pattern. Usually probably about the biggest you want to make them. This is my suggestion only. You can try them bigger. Is a 4-inch diameter. And these circles I just took off the end of my my ribbon that was empty, my ribbon rolls that I bought at the store. And you can get your circles from anywhere, or you can even make your own circles using a compass. So just, whatever you feel like you can do, or just even find like the end of I don't have a glass here, but the end of a glass, and turn it over and draw around it. That'll make a circle. Anything that makes a circle. And then, of course, you want to measure it to see what it measures, to see if it fits into the parameters. I have a 4-inch, a 3-inch, and a 2.5-inch. These are kind of approximate measurements, and that's the diameter, which is across in the middle, what they measure. So those are the common ones that I use. So I'm going to show you how I do this. First thing I do is I got my pattern, and I put that down onto a piece of fabric. Now, if my pattern was flimsier, like say just a piece of paper, I could actually pin that down and then just cut around it. But since it's a little bit thicker, what I like to do is I like to trace around it, and I am using a marker. You can use a pencil, whatever works for you. I am going to cut on the inside of the marker so that you won't be able to see the mark. The marker will be gone. Okay, so I got that one drawn. And I saw what else I could fit on there. Oh, I thought I could fit another one on there, but I can't. So I won't put another one on there. This one, I had enough fabric. So what I did was I doubled the fabric so that I could cut 2 at a time, which is helpful. I think probably about the most you'd want to cut at a time is about maybe 4. 3 or 4 would be good. Okay, now I'm going to cut this, and I'm going to go around my circle, but I'm going to go on the inside of it. So I cut, and I put a pin in the middle to kind of hold it steady. and I'm going to cut around that black Sharpie to get it off of there. The only reason I would use a Sharpie really is because it doesn't bleed onto the fabric, so it doesn't like come onto the inside part of the circle. Okay. And if you don't have two circles cut out of the same one, then you can just cut around your circle, and there's no need for a pin in the middle. And like I said, if you want to use a paper pattern, you can do that. A lot of people are more familiar with using a paper pattern because you can pin it down. And these do not, I'm taking care to cut around this black. These do not have to be, really immaculate, perfect circles, because by the time you get finished sewing them, the sewing part is kind of towards the middle, so it's not going to really show that much. Okay, so I got a scrap left, so I'm going to have to save it. Save all my scraps. Okay, so now I need to decide. I'm going to show you on one of these how to make it. This is the 4-inch, so this is the biggest size. And I'm going to show that first so that I can give you a little bit more detail. When you're making a smaller one, it's a little bit more difficult, but once you get the hang of making, I would start out maybe with a 3 or 4-inch one, which are these two sizes here. It's a 4-inch and 3-inch. And then try a smaller one. Okay, so this is the back of the fabric. I'm going to turn that over so that the wrong side is facing me. Then I'm just going to start anywhere in the circle. I threaded my needle, it's a regular sewing needle, but it's got a fairly thick eye, you don't want too thick because it won't go through the fabric. And I did thread it using double thread, and I knotted it on the end. I like to use this quilting thread that I have on hand for my quilting. It's a mercerized cotton thread, and I use it I use the ecru color because it kind of goes with everything and it doesn't stand out too much. If you were doing a really dark yo-yos and you didn't want the stitching to show, then you could use a black or a dark color. Okay, so anywhere on the circle I'm going to start. I'm going to put my needle in. And basically this is just doing a straight stitch around. But it's like gathering. You don't want to make your stitches real tiny. You can make them about, maybe half an inch long, a fourth of an inch long. And as I go, I'm turning this under, and I am doing in and out, gathering quite a few times. You'll get the hang of it as far as how many times you can do it. And then you pull it. I would pull it at this stage just to make sure that your knot is holding. Now, as you go, you're going to get kind of a little cup shape. Okay, and then just continue around. Now I'm folding this down. It doesn't have to be exact. If one part you get, isn't quite as folded down as the other part, that's fine. Don't worry about it. And I would say that's about an eighth to a quarter of an inch that I'm holding down. Oh, I ended up on the wrong side. See how I did that? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come up here a little ways so then I still have my knot. And you can gather as you go. As a matter of fact, I recommend that you gather as you go. That makes it a little bit easier at the end. Okay, so I finished with that one. I'm going to kind of gather it as I go a little bit. Make sure I'm getting the ruffles in there, getting the gathers in there. And I just keep going around. Now, like I said, this is a little bit more tricky to do with a smaller circle. So practice on getting your bigger ones arranged. See, I'm getting a little bit too much fabric there, so I'm going to go back and fix that. I'm going to try to get up a little bit more towards the camera. I hope I don't get too out of focus. Keep your gathers so they're not too small, because it might keep your gathers from gathering up. Okay, so I'm kind of near the point where I started, and I don't want to go over that point. So I'm just going to do one more gather, and then bring it up. Okay, then I'm going to put my thumb kind of in the middle, and then I'm going to gather it up. I'm going to put it down onto a flat surface, tabletop, whatever you got, your lap. Okay, then I'm going to arrange it kind of. And you might need to open up some of the gathers a little bit and pull out the gathers towards the end. Okay, and then once you get it, like I said, does not need to be perfect. This is the fun part about handwork, is you really don't want it to be perfect. If it's perfect, it would look like it was made by a machine. Okay, so I've got it gathered as much as it will go, and I want to secure it there at the last gather. So I'm going to go in with my thread, and I'm going to pull it almost to the end, and then I'm going to put it through that loop to tighten it. Now you can cut it there, but generally what I do is I go back into it to kind of anchor it down at that spot with a little stitch, and I pull it to the back, pull the thread to the back, and then I do another little stitch on the background. I'll hold it down. Whoops, I made a mess there with the Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut that part off that I messed up, and that's going to leave a little thread hanging on the back, which is fine since I'm going to probably be sewing this or gluing it down to something, so I'm not worried about how the back of it looks. Okay, so that's it. Generally, I thread my needle enough to make about 2 of these. And what you can do is you can just thread a whole bunch of needles before you start, so you don't have to keep stopping and doing that. I've done that on occasion if I need to make a lot. These are fun to keep and in a plastic baggie with the thread, a little bit of thread and the needle, and maybe a little pair of scissors to take with you places, because this is kind of a something that you can make in 5 minutes or 10 minutes, however long it usually takes you. And it's great for maybe travel, to tuck in your travel bag. Of course, you don't want to take too big of a scissors, so you might want to put this in your checked luggage if you're flying, because they might take your scissors away. I haven't had that happen, but I've had some friends have their knitting needles taken away. Okay, so let's try on a smaller one and see how it turns out. We'll try on one of these blue and white with the flowers. Okay, and so you cut your circle. This is the 3-inch circle. And you start at any side with your threaded needle and knotted needle. Then you're going to go down And then you're going to start gathering. You can do this one stitch at a time, but that kind of defeats the purpose of how easy it is. You don't want to do it too many stitches at a time, because the length of the needle will run out and you'll start going backwards. Okay, then on that first series of gathers, you want to just tug on a little, make sure that that knot is tight and doesn't come through. I've gotten all the way through one of these and then pulled it and it came undone, the whole thing. So you don't want to do that. And that was because the knot wasn't secure. So I would also advise gathering as you go. You can do these without folding this little edge over, but I don't like the way they look, so I don't do that. I like them to look a little more finished without the frayed edges. Okay, let's keep gathering, pulling as you go. Like I said, these are great to use on you know, any of your journal work or stitchery work, or even to sew them into, like say a table runner. I made a table runner once. It was beautiful. It turned out really nice. I took it to a show and I used it as a tablecloth on a table, and a lady loved it so much she begged me to sell it to her, so I did. Okay, so basically the way that if you were sewing these together, what you would do is you would make your, now I'm to the part where I'm kind of putting it flat and I'm pulling it taut. You might need to adjust some of the gathers. They might be too close together and making it pucker up too much or something. And then I, you know, kind of press it down in the middle. Okay, then you do your knot where you're securing it on the top. Okay, now if you were sewing these together, this would be the time where you probably would, you could go into the side here. And these do need to be sewn together by hand unless you want more of a straight look, which I don't want. But say these were the same size, they probably need to be the same size. Then I would put them together like that and then do like a little whip stitch along that edge. All along, so that they're connected like that. That way you just do it kind of all in one go and you don't have to rethread your needle. But that's only if you're stitching them all together. Okay, so let me figure out how to get this out of here. I think I'll just cut it. Okay, so that's a little tutorial on how to make yo-yos. They really are fun. They don't take much. They don't take a whole lot of work. And like I said, they're great. They're a great travel project. So get your pattern and get to making you some yo-yos. I appreciate you joining me today. Peace of mind. Bye now.